between financial comfort and true love. It seems like a simple choice, doesn't it? But what if everything around you was conspiring to make you give up your feelings in favor of a safe life? This is the harsh reality that many face, where love is relegated to the background and money takes the lead role. In this scenario, emotions are suffocated and true intentions are lost in a sea of social and family expectations. It seems difficult to believe that, in the 21st century, there are still people who find themselves trapped in relationships not out of love, but out of necessity. But the truth is that money still speaks louder in many cases, dictating rules and shaping destinies. What if you were in that position? Would you be able to give up your dreams and what really matters to you, just to guarantee a stable life? Or would you have the courage to defy convention and fight for what your heart truly desires? The story we will explore today goes far beyond a simple tale of love and finance. It is a faithful portrait of how the choices we make, pressured by external factors, can take us away from our true essence. But it is also a narrative of resistance, of finding the strength within oneself to defy expectations and live a life that is truly worth living. Are you ready to find out how far you would go to protect your dreams and your love? Prepare yourself for a journey of discovery and reflection that will challenge your beliefs about what really matters in life. Lolo, a young woman full of dreams, saw her world fall apart when she lost her job. Imagine the impact of this on your life. The bills kept coming, while the opportunities seemed to evaporate into thin air. However, instead of giving in to despair, she began to reflect on what really mattered. She had an old passion for art, a desire that always pulsed in her heart, but which, until then, took a back seat to her responsibilities. It's curious how the loss of something can open up space for deep questions, isn't it? She found herself in a dilemma, divided between following the safe path that her mother and boyfriend preached so much, or venturing into uncertain territory, but which filled her soul with joy. It's common, isn't it, for the people around us, often well-intentioned, to pressure us into choosing security over our true desires? Lolo felt it in her skin. Her mother, fearful for her daughter's future, and her boyfriend, worried about her financial stability, insisted that she should put aside her artistic daydreams. After all, how many times have we heard that art doesn't pay the bills? This thought echoed in Lolo's mind, fueled by the voices of those who, despite caring about her, did not understand the depth of her passion. However, within her, the flame of creativity refused to go out, even when all the evidence indicated that it would be best to follow a safer path. However, in the midst of this whirlwind of emotions and external pressures, an unexpected opportunity arises. Simon, a kind man desperate to find someone who could care for his paralyzed son, offers Lolo a job as a carer. This new proposal, although far from what she imagined for herself, opened a door that she had never considered. Sometimes the universe leads us down paths we would never have chosen, but somehow ends up taking us exactly where we need to be. For Lolo, taking this job was not just a matter of financial necessity, but also an opportunity to rediscover her value and purpose amidst the chaos. Over time, Lolo began to realize that her dream of being an artist did not need to be abandoned. However, she faced an internal battle. On the one hand, his love for art, which always brought him joy and peace. On the other, the expectations of her family and Jacob, her boyfriend, who wanted to see her in a position of financial stability. He, in particular, saw Lolo more as a future wife than an artist. The pressure on her to conform to this role was great, but Lolo knew, deep in her heart, that living a life based on the expectations of others would be a betrayal of her true self. How often are we pressured to choose between our dreams and the expectations of others? It is a difficult but necessary crossroads. Ultimately, what seemed like just another job turned out to be a turning point. Interacting with Wes, Simon's son, made Lolo begin to see life from a new perspective. Wes, even with all his physical limitations, demonstrated a strength and determination that deeply inspired her. He, who had been forced to abandon his own dreams, encouraged Lolo not to make the same mistake. Sometimes the people we least expect end up becoming our greatest mentors. Through Wes, Lolo began to understand that true happiness can only be achieved when we follow our hearts, regardless of the difficulties that may arise along the way. The pressure Lolo faced from her family was overwhelming. Her mother, like many mothers, only wanted the best for her daughter. However, his vision of what was best was based on concepts of security and financial stability. She firmly believed that Lolo should focus on getting a steady job, something that would pay the bills and ensure a peaceful future. It is not uncommon to see parents acting this way. After all, the protective instinct often speaks louder than understanding their children's true desires. But what Lolo's mother couldn't see is that security is not always synonymous with happiness. Jacob, in turn, was no different. He saw Lolo as the perfect partner for his planned and well-structured life. His vision of the future involved a dedicated wife, someone who was by his side, but who, at the same time, didn't have any great ambitions other than being a support for his successful career. He believed that Lolo should forget her artistic fantasies and focus on being the ideal wife. How many times do we see couples where one partner ends up sacrificing their dreams to support the other? This dynamic may seem fair at first, but in the long run, it can cause deep resentment and frustration. This kind of external pressure, especially when it comes from people so near and dear, can be extremely difficult to deal with. Lolo found herself torn between following her dreams and meeting the expectations of those she loved. She knew that giving in would mean, in a way, abandoning part of who she really was. But at the same time, the fear of disappointing her mother and Jacob was overwhelming. This dilemma is something that many face throughout their lives, and finding a balance between what we want for ourselves and what others expect of us is one of the most challenging tasks there is. However, the strength of Lolo's passion for art never completely disappeared. She continued to draw, to create, even if it was in her spare time, almost like a secret, a way of keeping alive the flame that gave her life meaning. But this hidden passion did not go unnoticed by Jacob and his mother. They saw the time she dedicated to art as a distraction, something that took her away from the right path, and that only increased the pressure on her. In moments like this, it is common for people to start questioning their own choices. Am I on the right path? Should I follow what others expect of me? These doubts gnawed at Lolo, but they also made her reflect on what really mattered. In the end, Lolo found herself at a crossroads. She knew that continuing to give in to external pressure would mean giving up her dreams, but she also feared what might happen if she followed her own path. The pressure she felt was real, but so was the passion that burned inside her. At this point, Lolo's story teaches us that, no matter how difficult it is, sometimes it is necessary to displease those we love so that we can live the life we truly want. And it was in this context of pressure and uncertainty that Lolo began to consider the possibility of freeing herself from the ties that tied her to a future that was not hers. Life sometimes surprises us with opportunities at the most unexpected moments, and that's exactly what happened to Lolo. In the midst of the whirlwind of uncertainty and pressure, she found a new chance when she met Simon. He, desperate to find someone who could care for his son, Wes, offered Lolo a job as a caregiver. Although this wasn't Lolo's dream career, she accepted the challenge, seeing it not only as a way to support herself, but also as a way to rediscover her strength. This meeting with Simon and Wes was the first step of a profound change in Lolo's life, where the unexpected became the key to new possibilities. Taking on the responsibility of caring for Wes was not an easy task for Lolo. He was a young man who, despite his weakened physical condition, possessed a brilliant mind and a challenging personality. Caring for him required not only patience, but also empathy and understanding. Lolo, who was used to dealing with challenges in a practical way, found herself faced with a situation where the solutions were not so clear. This new role made her grow as a person, developing skills she never imagined she had. At the same time, working with Wes brought up questions about his own life and dreams. Sometimes, it is in caring for others that we discover more about ourselves. Living with Wes began to open Lolo's eyes to new perspectives. She realized that despite all the challenges, there was something deeply rewarding about being able to help someone face their own battles. Wes, with all his intelligence and sharp sense of humor, began to get closer to Lolo, and this closeness revealed aspects of his own life that he normally kept hidden. As trust between the two grew, Lolo realized that she had found not just a job, but a new way of seeing the world and, consequently, her own existence. This experience began to shape his view of what really mattered in life. In addition to being an opportunity for personal growth, working with Wes also served as a kind of mirror for Lolo. He, who had been forced to abandon his own dreams due to his father's expectations, began to encourage Lolo not to make the same mistake. Wes's story was a constant reminder that living a life guided only by the expectations of others can lead to deep regrets. This coexistence made Lolo begin to reconsider her own choices and the courage needed to follow her path, even if it meant displeasing those she loved. This new opportunity, which at first seemed like just a temporary solution, ended up proving to be a turning point in Lolo's life. She came to realize that the choices we make, even the simplest ones, have the power to transform our lives in ways we could never predict. In Lolo's case, taking the job with Simon and Wes wasn't just a financial decision. It was the beginning of a journey of self-discovery and personal affirmation. As her relationship with Wes deepened, Lolo began to understand that true success lies not in meeting other people's expectations, but in being true to herself and her dreams. As time passed, Lolo found herself increasingly torn between her passion for art and the reality that surrounded her. On the one hand, there was the burning desire to follow her artistic vocation, something that made her feel alive, fulfilled. Drawing was not just a hobby, but a form of expression, a way of communicating to the world what words could not capture. On the other hand, the pressure to abandon that dream and follow a more conventional path was immense. Jacob, her boyfriend, and her mother, both worried about the future, saw art as a dangerous distraction, something that would not bring stability. This dilemma between dream and reality is something that many people face throughout their lives, and it is not easy to find an answer. Looking at her life, Lolo realized that she was surrounded by expectations. Jacob wanted a wife who would support him in his legal career, someone who would be by his side but without great ambitions of her own. Her mother, on the other hand, wanted Lolo to follow a safe path where money and stability were guaranteed. They both had good intentions, but they couldn't understand that, for Lolo, living a life without art would be like living without breathing. Art was his passion, his reason for being. However, giving in to this passion meant facing the possibility of failure, something that everyone fears, but few have the courage to face head on. But, as so often happens in life, true courage is not in taking the easiest path, but in following the path that our heart shows us, even if it is the most difficult. Lolo began to realize that living just to meet other people's expectations would be a betrayal of herself. However, she also knew that the path to art would not be simple. To make a living from her passion, she would need not only talent, but also determination, perseverance, and, above all, courage to face the uncertainties of the future. After all, the art world is competitive and unpredictable, but it is also full of possibilities for those who dare to dream. Wes, in turn, was a great supporter on this journey. He understood the weight of external expectations like no one else, having been forced to abandon his own dreams to follow the path his father had set for him. Wes saw in Lolo a reflection of himself, but he also saw the possibility of a different ending to his story. He encouraged her not to make the same mistakes he did, to follow her heart, and not to let fear or pressure from others divert her from her true path. This influence was crucial for Lolo to start seriously considering the idea of turning her passion into her life. However, the decision was not immediate. Lolo continued to draw in her free time, almost like a secret, a refuge where she could be herself, free from the expectations that surrounded her. But, little by little, she began to understand that hiding her passion was not the solution. To live fully, Lolo would have to embrace her art and make it her priority, even if it meant facing criticism and disapproval. After all, living on your own terms is the only way to find true satisfaction and happiness. And it was with this thought that Lolo began to take the first steps towards a life where art would not just be a hobby, but the center of her existence. Wes, despite all the adversities he faced, became a fundamental figure in Lolo's life. He, more than anyone, understood the weight of living under the expectations of others, having been forced by his father to follow a path that was not his own. When Wes began sharing his story with Lolo, it was clear that he didn't want her to make the same mistakes he did. His own experience taught him that, no matter how difficult it was essential to follow one's heart. And it was this wisdom, the result of hard lessons, that he passed on to Lolo, encouraging her not to abandon her dreams. The conversations between Wes and Lolo were full of deep reflections. Wes talked about how he had sacrificed his dream of playing football to meet the expectations of his father, who wanted to see him in the business world. This sacrifice, however, did not bring happiness, but rather a deep sense of loss and regret. Upon hearing this, Lolo began to realize that life is too short to live according to other people's desires. Wes, who had already lost so much, didn't want Lolo to follow the same path. He saw in her a strength and talent that deserved to be developed, not buried under the pressures of a secure future. Wes didn't just talk the talk, he acted as a true mentor to Lolo. He encouraged her to persist, even when everything seemed to point to failure. He believed that true failure was giving up before even trying. For Wes, life only makes sense when we're pursuing something we truly love. And it was in this spirit that he motivated Lolo to take the next step toward her dream, even if it meant confronting her family's and Jacob's expectations. This influence was a turning point for Lolo, who began to realize that perhaps she had more courage than she realized. Furthermore, Wes also showed Lolo that limitations are often imposed by our own minds. Despite his physical condition, he continued to nurture an active mind, full of ideas and aspirations. He firmly believed that true power lies in the ability to imagine and create, something Lolo did masterfully through her art. This inspiring insight helped Lolo redefine her own perception of success and understand that following her dreams was not just an option, but a necessity to live a full and meaningful life. Through Wes, Lolo not only found inspiration, but also a living example of resilience and determination. He taught her that even in the most difficult circumstances, it is possible to keep the flame of hope and passion alive. Wes's influence was undoubtedly one of the driving forces that led Lolo to reconsider her choices and finally decide that following her heart was the only way to truly live. With this new perspective, Lolo began to chart a new path, where her dreams of being an artist would no longer be relegated to the background, but rather placed at the center of her life. Inspired by Wes and the understanding that life is only full when we follow our true desires, Lolo finally decided to take action. She made the brave decision to enroll in an animation program at CalArts, one of the most prestigious schools in the area. This step represented much more than just an application. It was a declaration of independence, an affirmation that she was willing to fight for her dream, regardless of the expectations others had for her. This decision, however, was made in secret, as Lolo knew that she would still face resistance from her mother and Jacob, who would probably see this choice as reckless. When submitting her application, Lolo felt a mix of emotions. There was fear, of course, the fear that his dream might not come true, but there was also a deep sense of relief. For the first time, she was taking control of her life, setting aside what others thought was best for her. This action, as simple as it seemed, marked the beginning of a new phase in his life. She was determined to follow her path, even if it meant swimming against the current. The decision to apply to CalArts was the first concrete step toward a future she could call her own. When Lolo received the news that she had been accepted into the program, the feeling was indescribable. She was ecstatic, a mixture of surprise and realization. That acceptance letter represented not only an opportunity to study what he always loved, but also a validation of his talent and his ability to overcome obstacles. However, this victory brought with it new challenges. Lolo knew she would have to face the disapproval of her mother and Jacob, who still saw art as a risky and reckless choice. But now, with acceptance in hand, she felt more confident and ready to face the consequences of her choice. Acceptance into CalArts was a turning point for Lolo. She began to imagine herself living a life where art was not just a distant dream, but an everyday reality. This made her reflect on what she really wanted for her future. More than ever, Lolo was determined to make art her career, her life. She knew the path would be difficult, but she also knew that nothing would make her happier than pursuing this dream. The strength that Wes gave her, along with the courage to finally follow her own path, gave Lolo the confidence she needed to face any obstacle that came her way. This new phase of his life was full of possibilities. Lolo began to prepare for what was to come, knowing that the support she would receive would be limited. But the decision to move forward, to dedicate herself to what she loved, was what kept her firm. Every drawing, every idea she sketched, was a step closer to turning her dream into reality. She knew that even though the challenges were great, the rewards of living according to her passions would be incomparable. Lolo was finally on the right path, a path she chose herself, and nothing could stop her now. Lolo's decision to follow her passion for art brought new clarity into her life, and this clarity soon led her to reevaluate her relationship with Jacob. From the beginning, Jacob had represented security, a stable, predictable future. He had a clear plan for the future, and in that plan, Lolo played the role of the ideal wife, with no room for great personal ambitions. However, as Lolo delved deeper into her artistic journey, she began to realize that this future plan by Jacob was not what she really wanted. She wanted something more, something that made her feel alive and fulfilled. Tension between the two began to grow as Lolo moved away from Jacob's expectations. He couldn't understand why she was so determined to follow a path that, in his view, didn't offer the same security and stability that he could provide. To Jacob, the idea of Lolo abandoning a comfortable life to pursue an uncertain career in art seemed foolish. This fundamental difference in perspectives put their relationship to the test. Lolo knew that to be true to herself, she would need to make a difficult decision, and that decision involved freeing herself from the bonds that Jacob represented. The break between Lolo and Jacob was inevitable, but no less painful for that. Lolo knew that saying goodbye to Jacob also meant saying goodbye to a safe and predictable future. But she was willing to take this risk, as she now understood that living according to someone else's plans meant betraying her own dreams and desires. This decision was an act of courage, a necessary step so that she could truly embrace the life she wanted for herself. When the relationship ended, Lolo felt a weight lift off her shoulders, as if she was finally free to be who she really was. However, this newfound freedom brought with it a mix of emotions. There was the fear of the unknown, the fear of facing an uncertain future alone. But at the same time, there was a sense of empowerment, the realization that she was in control of her own life. That was true liberation for Lolo. The realization that she no longer had to live in the shadow of Jacob's or her mother's expectations. Now, she was free to follow her own path, to make her own decisions, and ultimately to live on her own terms. Separating from Jacob marked the end of one chapter in Lolo's life and the beginning of another, full of possibilities and challenges. But more importantly, it was the moment she chose herself instead of giving in to outside pressure. This choice, as difficult as it was the one that gave her the strength she needed to move forward and continue her journey towards what really mattered to her. Lolo was now ready to face the world with courage and determination, knowing that no matter what the future brought, she was finally on the right path. The relationship between Lolo and Wes had strengthened over time, becoming a genuine and meaningful friendship. However, this friendship was drastically tested when Wes suffered a serious cardiac episode. For Lolo, seeing Wes in such a vulnerable situation was a shock. He, who was always strong and resilient, suddenly found himself on the verge of collapse, and this made her reflect on the fragility of life. Lolo realized that even the strongest people can face immense challenges, and that it is at these times that true character is revealed. Wes' health has always been a constant concern, but this new episode brought to light how serious his condition was. The doctors, as competent as they were, made it clear that Wes was in a delicate situation and that any new problem could be fatal. This kind of news is not easy to digest, and Lolo felt the weight of responsibility increase even more on her shoulders. She knew that her role as a caregiver went far beyond everyday tasks. She was there to offer emotional support and be a pillar of strength for Wes, even when he himself began to lose hope. Given the gravity of the situation, Wes made an unexpected request to Lolo. He, who had always encouraged her to follow her dreams, now asked her to continue her life, regardless of what happened to him. Wes understood that her condition should not be a burden on Lolo, and that she needed to move forward, achieve her dreams, and live fully. This request, although full of love and consideration, was one of the most difficult moments for Lolo. She knew that moving forward meant, in some ways, leaving Wes behind, and that idea was almost unbearable for her. However, the wisdom in Wes' words could not be ignored. He reminded her that life is short and that each moment must be lived intensely. Wes, who had always sacrificed his own dreams, didn't want to see Lolo do the same. He knew that the greatest gift he could give her was the freedom to follow her own paths without remorse or regret. This moment was a turning point for Lolo, who began to understand that, as much as she loved Wes, she needed to continue her journey, taking with her the lessons and love he gave her. Wes's health episode, while devastating, served as a powerful reminder to Lolo that life is precious and unpredictable. She understood that, even in the midst of pain and uncertainty, it was necessary to move forward, pursue your own dreams, and live fully. Wes, with his strength and courage, showed Lolo that true love does not bind, but frees. And so, with a heavy but determined heart, Lolo made the decision to continue living, carrying with her memories of Wes and the certainty that she was doing what he wanted most, living his life to the fullest. With everything that had happened, Lolo finally found herself in a place of peace and fulfillment. His decision to pursue an artistic career, despite all the adversities and challenges, began to bear fruit. Now, not only had she been accepted into CalArt's prestigious animation program, she was on her way to making her dream a reality. Each new achievement was proof that she was on the right path. More than that, Lolo realized that true happiness doesn't just come from external achievements, but from being faithful to yourself, to what really matters. Lolo's journey so far has not been easy, but each obstacle overcome has strengthened her determination. She remembered the words of Wes, who always encouraged her to live her life fully, and felt like she was honoring that memory by following in his own footsteps. Their relationship, although marked by challenges, was one of the great drivers for Lolo's transformation. Wes taught him that even in the face of the greatest adversity, it is possible to find joy and purpose. Now, living her passion, Lolo felt that she was, in a way, also living for him, for everything he represented in her life. Lolo's achievements also brought an unexpected reconciliation with her mother. As Lolo began to gain recognition for her work, her mother finally understood the value of the choice her daughter had made. Seeing Lolo happy and successful, living according to her principles and passions, made her mother realize that true success is not only measured by financial stability, but by finding and following what makes us feel alive. This understanding brought a new level of respect and admiration to the relationship between the two, something that Lolo always wanted. Plus, Lolo's path led her back to Wes in an unexpected way. After a long recovery, He was able to overcome many of the limitations that had held him back for so long. The two met again, and this meeting was not just a reunion of friends, but a celebration of a new beginning. Wes, now stronger and inspired by Lolo's success, found new ways to connect with life, and Lolo, in turn, continued to be a source of inspiration for him. Together, they celebrated not only their personal victories, but the strength they found in each other. This ending, although marked by challenges and losses, is a celebration of life in its purest form. Lolo, who began her journey full of doubt and external pressure, now found herself in a place of internal security and fulfillment. She knew the path wouldn't always be easy, but she was confident that with the strength she found in herself and the lessons she learned along the way, she could face anything. Lolo's story is a powerful reminder that by following our dreams and being true to who we truly are, we find true happiness and purpose in life. Now that you've delved into this story full of difficult choices and transformative discoveries, it's time to reflect. What would you do if you were in the same situation? The path we take in life is often shaped by the decisions we make under pressure, but do these decisions really reflect who we are? Maybe it's time to stop and think. Am I living the life I want or just following what others expect of me? If there is one lesson we can take away from this, it is that true success is not in pleasing others or in accumulating wealth, but in finding and following what makes us truly happy. Are you ready to take control of your life and make the right choices for yourself? What stops you from living a life full of purpose and passion? Before moving forward, subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of the upcoming videos that will bring you even more insights and inspiration to help you live the life you deserve. After all, you only have one life, so why not live it to the fullest?